First tonight, a tragic story which could now help save lives.
Eleanor McGrath was just 14 when she was killed last March by a teenage driver. In the same accident, a 16-year-old boy suffered brain damage and 13 others were injured. Recent statistics show that 1 in 4 deaths on Britain's roads involve young drivers. Now 2 of Eleanor's friends, backed by her family, have made a moving DVD to get the safety message across to teenagers all over the country.
This was the scene on the 6th of March last year. 17-year-old Ben Gemmell lost control of his car, mounted the pavement and ploughed into a group of teenagers. 14-year-old Eleanor McGrath was killed and many of her friends seriously injured. A year on, her family is still trying to come to terms with what's happened.
Our lives have just changed totally, absolutely, in a few seconds. Not just us, lots of people's lives, but ours in particular. You know, lost our only daughter, our son's lost his sister, he's now an only child, and it's just dreadful.
Today in Southend, 2 of Eleanor's friends launched a DVD. The documentary's called Driving with Grace, Eleanor's middle name. The emotional interviews show how her friends are struggling to get on with their lives.
I had tore 2 of my ligaments in my knee and tore cartilage as well. And I had to have 2 operations on my knee.
I broke my tibia and my femur, and where the car hit me, it damaged my nerve, so I can't feel my foot.
It's scarred me mentally quite severely, really. I have counselling once a week, anger management that involves, and dealing with different emotions.
And for Ben Gemmell, a 6-year prison sentence has given him time to think.
Once you get behind the wheel of a car, you are in control and you have to take responsibility for the actions. And I have taken responsibility, and this is where I find myself now in this situation.
The DVD is being distributed to every secondary school in the UK in the hope other teenagers will realise the impact of dangerous driving.
You know, he's still a person. He was just like any of us, you know. Just because a bad thing happened, he's not a bad person. So I think hopefully other teenagers look and think, well, yeah, I'm just like Ben.
The film's had backing from Essex Police and the Safer Roads Foundation. It's hoped the impact of this story will mean Eleanor McGrath didn't die in vain. Felicity Simper, BBC Look East.
Investigations are underway after a property letting agency in Cambridgeshire shut its doors, owing around £100,000 to landlords and tenants. Price Properties Rentals, based in Huntingdon, has ceased trading. More than 50 people are owed money. Their complaints have been passed to the police.
Carpentry, tiling, painting. Mark Shipley worked for Price Properties for nearly a year. He's among dozens of people looking for this woman, its owner, Sharon Price. He says she owes him nearly £2,000 in wages.
Decorated a house from top to bottom. One evening I was working until 3 o'clock in the morning to get it done on time so that it was ready for the landlord to inspect it, and that's, I haven't been paid for that job.
Price Properties in Huntingdon went out of business last month, and with it, at least £100,000 in rent and deposits disappeared. It's left landlords wondering how to get their money back. No more so than the owner of this house in St Ives, now living in Australia, 9,000 miles away and £19,000 out of pocket.
It's really been one excuse after another, to the degree that I actually flew over for a family event last July and actually visited Sharon Price, and she personally committed that all outstanding monies would be paid by the end of July 2009. Unfortunately, none of that actually happened.
This logo in the company's window means deposits should have been kept in a separate bank account and protected by law. So, where is the money? We went to Sharon Price's executive home in Brampton near Huntingdon to find out. There's no car in the drive, the curtains are drawn. Sharon Price is not here to answer our questions, but she will have to answer questions from the police and trading standards. Around 100 landlords are owed money, some of whom have now moved to this lettings agent across town.
We've had 4 landlords contact us. They were writing to them and asking them about mainly where the rent payments were, and we're getting fobbed off, getting emails back saying that they were dealing with it. that they would be paying the money over within a certain period of time, and it never came.
It's not the first agency in the region to go bust in controversial circumstances. Hotlets in Colchester closed owing £100,000. Meanwhile, Mark Shipley fears he'll never be paid. But many landlords will be looking for compensation. Mike Cartwright, BBC Look East, Huntingdon.
And we heard about that story because a viewer contacted us. But don't forget you can get in touch with us at any time, either by calling us on 08457 630 630 or by emailing us at look.east@bbc.co.uk.
Campaigners against expansion at Stansted Airport claim it's now in doubt after a ruling today at the High Court. The judge has ordered the government to reconsider its plans for a third runway at Heathrow to take into account the latest figures on climate change. Those figures were also used for the basis of a proposal to build another runway at Stansted Airport. Brian Ross from Stop Stansted Expansion joins us now. Can you just explain why you think the Heathrow ruling affects Stansted? Because the plans are at very different stages. I mean, Stansted is now due to go to public inquiry, isn't it?
Yes, in fact, the judgment today has even more implications for Stansted than it has for Heathrow. But let me just briefly explain what the judgment said. It said, essentially, there was a fundamental contradiction between the government's plans for massive expansion of our airports and its plans for reduction of 80% in Britain's carbon emissions, that the two policies couldn't be squared. Now, those policies apply to Stansted just as much as they apply to Heathrow.
Well, Gordon Brown, sorry to interrupt you, but Gordon Brown has said today that the plans are compatible with the government's carbon reduction targets.
Well, that's what he said, but the government hasn't answered the question. Last December, its own Climate Change Committee said that the most they could expand air travel to was to cater for 370 million passengers. The government's plans currently cater for 600 million passengers. It can't be squared. And I think Gordon Brown this morning was speaking about Heathrow, where he believes that they've got 2 years, if he's still Prime Minister, they have 2 years to sort out the policy contradiction before a planning application is submitted at Heathrow. At Stansted, however, we've already got the planning application, which has to be decided under the current policy. And so we think they're in a real dilemma.
Stansted itself has said today that this changes absolutely nothing, and to quote it, your claims are opportunistic and completely disingenuous.
Well, look, I was in the High Court this morning to hear the judgment. I have the judgment here. They must be reading a different bit of paper. But we've dealt with BAE for many years now, and it reminds me really, it's a bit like the Monty Python Dead Parrot sketch, where these things keep happening to demonstrate that this second runway project is dead in the water, and BAE insists on saying that nothing's changed. Well, we'll just have to wait and see.
Brian Ross, thank you very much.
Well, still to come.